I was bullied by Clara Lynn for 3 whole years and developed depression. Just as my brother and fiancé were about to send her to prison, Clara Lynn suddenly claimed she had been reborn. She tearfully confessed and apologized to them, saying, "Didn't you say you would love me if I turned back?" That same day, Clara Lynn was acquitted. My brother and fiancé urged me to let it go. Everyone goes through an immature phase. Don't be unreasonable. No matter what she was like before, she deserves love now. Clara hid behind them, looking at me innocently. "Zoe Xia, can you forgive me?" I slapped her expressionlessly and said, "Sorry, but no." The day I was discharged from the hospital happened to be the day of Clara Lynn's trial. She had bullied me for 3 whole years, causing me to develop depression. My brother and my fiancé Evan Shun had finally gathered enough evidence to sue Clara Lynn. When I arrived at the courthouse, Evan and my brother were being interviewed. "What would you like to say to the perpetrator?" Evan Shun's cold gaze pierced through the camera. "Since Miss Lynn refuses to admit her wrongdoing, I have no choice but to seek justice for my fiancé." Cheers erupted from the surroundings. My fiancé, Evan Shun, is the young CEO of a well-known listed company. My brother, Sean Xia, is a partner at a top law firm. Everyone believed Clara Lynn was finished. Online support for me was overwhelmingly one-sided. Zoe Xia is so lucky to have her brother and fiancé supporting her. Ordinary girls who suffer bullying can only endure it in silence. Say no to campus bullying. Stay strong, Zoe Xia. My brother stood nearby, without speaking. His indifferent eyes were fixed on the slowly approaching car. Inside sat Clara Lynn. "Before coming here, the doctor told me, I don't recommend you attending the hearing, as revisiting the case details may trigger emotional distress and worsen your depression. So today, my bestie Janie is attending the hearing in my place. While I wait in the courthouse lobby, we avoided the reporters at the front door and entered the hall. We came face to face with Clara Lynn. Her usually arrogant, beautiful face now showed traces of panic. When she saw my brother and Evan Shun, tears immediately rolled down her cheeks. "Sean, Evan, I'm sorry." My brother and Evan Shun walked straight past her without a glance. Before entering, Janie patted my shoulder reassuringly. "Don't worry, the law won't let any guilty person escape." The door closed. Silence fell around us. Time ticked by second as I waited anxiously for the final verdict. At exactly 11 o'clock, Janie suddenly pulled the door open and rushed out. Her face was filled with anger. My heart sank. I stood up bewildered, my voice trembling as I asked, "Janie, what's wrong?" Janie opened her mouth. "Your brother and Evan." Seeing her disappointed expression, I rushed toward the door. Rounding the corner, I saw Evan and my brother flanking the petite Clara Lynn, both wearing equally grim expressions as they watched her crying pitifully. Clara Lynn timidly took my brother's hand with trepidation. "I'm sorry. I know I've done many wrong things. I'll do my best to make amends." "Sean, can you forgive me?" This uncharacteristic speech made my brother's expression stiffen. Then he pretended to be composed and coldly pushed her hand away. "When you said I disgusted you, why didn't you think about asking for my forgiveness?" Ignoring his coldness, Clara threw herself into his arms. "San, I like you. Let's be together, okay?" I saw my brother suddenly clench fist. I also caught the fleeting bitterness in Evan's eyes. "Brother," I interrupted them, asking softly with fear and unease, "did we win today's lawsuit?" Evan looked at me with difficulty. Clara Lynn was found not guilty. These words struck like thunder beside my ears, leaving my head buzzing. Not guilty? How could she be not guilty? The judge said your evidence contained exaggerations and couldn't be admitted. But this evidence was prepared by him and my brother personally. My intense outcry attracted the reporters waiting outside the door. They surrounded me on all sides. The camera lens focused on my defiant face. Accusatory questions assaulted me from every direction. "Miss Xia, how do you explain the judge declaring Clara Lynn not guilty? Did you deceive the public?" More and more reporters swarmed in frantically. Evan Shun extracted me from the crowd. As I got into the car, he accidentally brushed against my scars. The pain made me shudder. Beneath my thin clothing, hidden from view, orange, peel, like scars stretched across my entire arm, bumpy and rough, utterly repulsive. These were burns from Clara Lynn's curling iron, all because someone complimented that my skin was better than hers. My hair quality isn't great either, brittle like dry straw. Clara Lynn had doused it with chemicals because someone praised my thick, jet black hair. At that moment, I still clung to hope in Evan Shun. Evan, please, take me back. I need to see the judge. But my words caught in my throat the next second. Evan Shun's gentle eyes held a trace of impatience. Zoe, don't act like this in front of the reporters. We're getting married. I hope you can behave normally, instead of making me clean up your mess every time. I stood there frozen. It took me a long moment to process his words. Evan, am I really being unreasonable? Did I create these scars myself? My hysterical questioning was met with his endless silence. Zoe, I have a company meeting to attend. Stay at your brother's place tonight. That night, videos of my emotional breakdowns spread like wildfire across news outlets. Clara Lynn appeared teary-eyed and fragile before the cameras, looking utterly broken and pitiful. It's okay. Zoe is just sick. I don't blame her. The online supporters who had stood by me instantly turned against me. Damn, we've been played. So Zoe fabricated everything. If she loves spreading rumors so much, she can do it behind bars. Did you all know? Zoe's family is loaded. Who'd believe a rich heiress could get bullied? Give me a break. They truly don't know. I'm just an adopted daughter of the Xia family. My brother is their biological son. When he broke ties with our parents to pursue law, he resolutely took me with him. I haven't been a wealthy heiress for a long time. Late at night, the bedroom was hushed. Janie sent me many messages, but I didn't reply. I dare not check my phone, browse the internet, or even turn on the TV. Suddenly, the sound of the door opening came from outside. Amid rustling noises, Clara Lynn's shy whisper followed. Sean, don't turn on the light. I felt as if I'd fallen into an ice cellar. My brother had brought Clara Lynn home. I opened my door, and the commotion in the living room grew unmistakably clear. Be good. Stay still. Don't move. Came my brother's desire, laden command. What they were doing was obvious without words. Without hesitation, I switched on the living room light. The harsh glare fell upon the couple in the entryway. Clara Lynn shrieked and shrank fearfully into my brother's arms. My brother frowned and turned around, displeasure flashing in his eyes at the interruption. Why are you here? I replied, almost numbly. Evan Shin won't let me go to his place. Where else could I go? This used to be my safe haven. I never thought there'd come a day when I'd have nowhere to stand. Clara Lynn suddenly threw herself into my brother's arms, her face full of concern. Sean, don't go near her. You must remember what I told you. Sean patted her hand reassuringly, his gaze toward me filled with indifference. Zoe, Evan Shun and I have discussed it. You're going back to stay at the hospital. Evan's driver will come pick you up tomorrow. Why? No reason needed. My brother picked Clara up and carried her into the bedroom. With the soft click of the closing door, the living room darkened. I wanted to follow and say something, but as I raised my hand to knock, I suddenly heard movement inside. Clara was crying between gasps. San, I'm telling the truth. I've been reborn. In the future, Zoe will inherit what should be yours. I don't care about that inheritance. But what if it's for me? Clara Lynn's voice was fractured and desperate. What if she would kill me? After a long silence, the ambiguous movements in the room suddenly intensified, along with Sean Xia's whisper. Don't worry, I will protect you. The next day, the driver who came to pick me up for the hospital found I was missing. At that time, I was sitting in the Xia family villa, having a meal with my parents. Has the online public opinion been cleaned up? Father asked his secretary casually. Reporting to President Xia, it has been handled thoroughly. Mother placed a piece of beef in my bowl. Has Sean been starving you all these years? How did you become so thin? Back then, the reason I could come to the Xia family was because my parents took Sean to the orphanage for charity, and Sean had an argument with them. He said he would never inherit the family business in this lifetime. Father flew into a rage and immediately decided to adopt me. If you don't want to take over the family business, there are plenty of others who do. So Sean never liked me. I lived at home in constant trepidation, meticulously trying to please everyone. Yet none of it stopped Sean from taking me along when he ran away from home. My parents didn't try to prevent it. In fact, the only few times they contacted me over the years were to inquire about Sean's well-being, so I knew my place well. Faced with mother's concern, I softly made excuses for Sean, saying he was too busy, and that it was my own fault for having no appetite. You always stick up for Sean, child. Just as we were speaking, the doorbell suddenly rang. The servant opened the door to reveal Sean and Evan Shun. Their sharp, cold gazes fell upon me in unison, heavy and chilling, as if I were some unforgivable monster. Father frowned. "Why are you back?" Sean replied, "To take Zoe away." Just minutes before, I had already exposed Sean's affair with Clara Lynn. Clara was the Lynn family's illegitimate daughter, never truly accepted. The Lynn family had been declining in recent years. It was of no benefit to the Xia family's development. Now that Sean Xia had come for me, it struck a raw nerve with my parents. Father angrily refused him. Zoe Xia isn't going anywhere. He'll stay with the Xia family, complete his coming-of-age ceremony, and then go to college. Dad, don't call me Dad until you've broken up with that woman. During the summer when I turned 18, thanks to my parents' protection, I enjoyed a period of peace. The online criticism condemning me has also completely vanished. Of course, like most cases of school bullying, the suffering I endured had faded from everyone's memory. Time flew by, and soon it was the day of my coming-of-age ceremony. The venue was packed with people. As I stood in the crowd, I suddenly heard a clear, carefree voice. "Clara Lynn, who gave you permission to show up here?" Following the voice, I saw Stella Lynn, the eldest daughter of the Lynn family, bossing Clara Lynn around. "I've told you, I'll hit you and your mother every time I see you. Which face do you want me to slap?" This wasn't surprising. Stella had never gotten along with her illegitimate younger sister. Clara Lynn smiled faintly. "Sean invited me here. When she saw me, she eagerly ran over and linked arms with me. Zoe, where's your brother?" I didn't want to engage with her. Clara Lynn beamed a radiant smile. "Why won't you talk to me? Your brother and Evan Shun have already forgiven me. Won't you forgive me too?" Suddenly, I raised my hand and slapped Clara Lynn hard across the face. "Sorry, but I can't forgive you." The sudden slap left Clara Lynn stunned, until Sean hurried over and pulled her into his embrace. "Zoe, is this how I usually teach you to behave?" Apologize to her. Clara Lynn covered her face, tears streaming down. "I'm sorry, Zoe. I'm the one who should apologize to you." "You're absolutely right that you should apologize to me." Sean's tone was particularly cold. "Is depression your get out of jail free card? Petty squabbles aren't worth getting depressed over." So in his eyes, what Clara Lynn did to me had always been just petty squabbles. Clara Lynn hid in his embrace, large teardrops rolling from her eyes. Sean, don't confront her. She'll ruin you in the future. Didn't we agree to visit your parents?" Sean finally closed his eyes, seemingly calming his anger. "All right, I'll do as you say." After the two left, Stella Lynn sauntered leisurely to my side. "Be careful, or your parents might disown you after hearing her out." Meeting my puzzled gaze, Stella snorted disdainfully. "Just giving you a friendly warning. Clara Lynn has been acting possessed lately, claiming she can predict the future everywhere she goes. Those who've heard her speak seem brainwashed too. My parents are among them. They just officially recognized her as part of the Lynn family a few days ago." I quietly lifted my head, gazing toward the study. Soon after, the study door opened. Clara Lynn stumbled against the railing, her face deathly pale. Had Sean not caught her, she would have fallen to her death. The guests all looked up at the commotion. My father stepped out, his face still clouded with anger, and warned her, "Miss Lynn, such clumsy prophecies are utterly useless to me. Our family isn't a place just anyone can enter. And Zoe Xia isn't someone anyone can bully. I advise you to tread carefully." Stella Lynn whipped her head around, meeting my calm gaze. I smiled faintly. Don't worry, they won't. Not for now. Clara Lynn's prophecies only hold true under normal circumstances. So, I just need to cut off that path before it's taken. Clara Lynn kept trying to explain. Uncle Xia, Zoe really will covet your family's fortune. Enough. My father cut in, his eyes cold as ice. Zoe signed an agreement long ago, renouncing her inheritance, rights to preserve a relationship with Sean Xia. She nearly severed ties with us altogether. Stella looked shocked. Are you insane? When your parents pass away, and your brother falls under her influence, do you think he'll spare you? I stared intently at Stella. Miss Lynn, how about we make a deal? It would help both me and you. When I returned from my conversation with Stella Lynn, I happened to run into Sean Xia, seeing Clara Lynn home. Many people around were pointing fingers at her. That's her, right? Not content with just bullying someone, she even tried to drive a wedge between parents and their child. What kind of person does that? A bastard child, never fit for decent company. Clara Lynn was crying, tears streaming down her face like raindrops on pear blossoms. San, I'm not like that. Please sue them for me, okay? Sean held her hand and said, all right, go home and rest. Get some sleep, and everything will be better when you wake up. After the coming of age ceremony, Stella Lynn helped me arrange for media coverage. I sat in front of the camera and detailed the bullying I had endured from Clara Lynn. The video caused an uproar online. Sharp-eyed netizens pointed out, it looks like she has burn marks on her body. I attended the hearing. Zoe Xia's lawyer didn't present any evidence. It was only then that I realized Sean Xia and Evan Shun had concealed evidence without my permission. Netizens urged me to change lawyers and file a new appeal. Soon, I found a lawyer willing to take on my case. The day before I was about to submit the documents, I suddenly received a call from Evan Shun. Azong, pick a date. Let's get our marriage certificate. His tone was so gentle it felt somewhat artificial. I instantly recognized his intention. No matter what you say, I won't help clear Clara Lynn's name. She deserves to be cursed to death. The other end of the line fell into a prolonged silence. Azong, this is your last chance. I angrily hung up the phone, but my hands kept trembling. Truthfully, I didn't dare to gamble on human nature. When my parents see Clara Lynn's predictions coming true one by one, would they still help me? I'm just an adopted daughter. The only thing I could do now was to temporarily reassure my parents and bring Clara Lynn to justice as quickly as possible. In the following days, things progressed too smoothly. It wasn't until I was cornered in an alley that I realized what Evan meant, but I don't regret it. Several large men pinned me down in the alley. They brutally tore my clothes. Clara Lynn stood not far away, smugly saying, Zoe Xia, you must be wondering why they're treating you like this. Because you deserve to die. In your previous life, you harmed all of us, yet sat before me as if nothing happened. How is that fair? No matter how many times you beat me, you'll ultimately lose to me. Like wild dogs, those men swarmed forward as Clara Lynn departed. I screamed, resisting with every ounce of my strength. As time ticked by, the men clearly grew panicked. Knock her out first, then do it. I saw the stone they raised high above their heads. Then police sirens sounded from outside the alley. There were police officers and also reporters. The police were called by Stella Lynn. The reporters were summoned by Clara Lynn. That day, a pixelated video of me, disheveled and dragged out of the alley, made headlines. Countless media outlets reposted and reported on it. Stella Lynn draped a coat over me, pulled me into the restroom, and gripped my trembling hands, saying, Zoe Xia, open your eyes and look at me. She repeated to me word by word, over and over. They're the ones who deserve to die. No compromise. Remember that. Covered in wounds. I numbly grasped Stella Lynn's hand. Don't let Janie know. Janie would fight to the death for me. Okay. I'm trembling all over. And also, don't stand up for me. Why? I shook with pain. What if Sean Xia and Evan Shen are involved in this? Stella Lynn's face paled. You mean, your parents might sweep it under the rug? Yes. I slowly hugged my knees. Profit comes first. No one cares whether I live or die. Impossible. Just then, Unfamiliar voices suddenly came from outside the restroom. That girl's parents came to pick her up, said it was nothing serious, taking her home. The parents of the girl who called the police came too, said it was poor discipline, a false report. The light in Stella Lynn's eyes gradually dimmed. My parents had completely abandoned me. My last way out was also blocked by Clara Lynn. I smiled bitterly. Stella, only by leaving can we survive. This time, it's hiring someone to assault me. What's next? Will they try to take my life? In the dimly lit bathroom, the exhaust fan whirred mournfully. Stella Lynn's eyes burned with intense hatred. So, what do you plan to do? Leave. I can't promise how many years I'll be gone, but you must believe that I will definitely return. That summer, I never made it to my dream university. Instead, I boarded a plane bound for country, forcibly admitted by Sean Xia to a remote mental institution. On the day of my departure, Clara Lynn came specifically to see me off. She smugly told me, Zoe Xia, go die. But Clara Lynn could never have imagined that the moment I boarded that plane, her life was destined to be cast back into hell by my hand. Winters turned to springs. 7 years passed in a flash. Outside the mental institution, the poplar trees began shedding their white fluff again. One afternoon, I curled up on my bed, staring blankly at the poplars outside. On the desk lay a psychological evaluation form filled with numbers. The sliding door of the ward suddenly opened, and a voice tinged with cynicism drifted in. Miss Xia, how many times have you filled out this evaluation form? Will you pass this time? I turned my head, meeting Stella Lynn's somewhat haggard face, and smiled. I don't know. A doctor walked in behind Stella Lynn. In a very calm tone, he informed me, Miss Xia, your condition has improved. You're ready to be discharged. By then, 7 years had passed since I was admitted. Stella Lynn stared at the evaluation form in my hand, where the number in the upper right corner read, 2,556. What does this mean? The 2,556 form? She looked at me as if I were insane. You've been trying to prove your sanity since the day you were admitted? A full 7 years? I laughed. Turns out, pulling strings like you did is still more reliable. It had taken Stella Lynn 7 long years to secure my release from the psychiatric hospital. As she picked up my luggage, she remarked casually, by the way, your brother and Clara Lynn are getting married. I paused briefly. All these years, Clara Lynn had no head for business. The Lynn family has been entirely supported by Stella. Sean Xia showed no talent for business whatsoever, to the extent that the commercial status of the two families completely reversed. The marriage arrangement naturally fell into place. Stella Lynn rummaged through her bag, saying, Right, your admission letter. From the renowned physics professor, Joel Stephen. Back then, you sent emails for 6 months straight without a reply from Stephen. Now, he probably doesn't want to let you go. Stephen always said I was the most physically gifted person he'd ever met. It was this fondness that made him exceptionally teach me physics privately via email and video for 7 years. And on the day I left the hospital, he eagerly sent the admission offer. I replied with an email. Thank you, but I may need to defer my enrollment. There are some things I need to take care of. The reply came, wishing you smooth sailing. I returned to my home country as the senior technical consultant for Lynn Corporation. Seeing Sean's wedding news plastered all over the streets and alleys made me nauseous. In the afternoon, Clara Lynn's arrogant voice echoed from the end of the cool corridor. Of all times to schedule a meeting during my wedding photo shoot, does Stella Lynn want to get fired? Stella pushed the office door open with a smile and said, I just wanted to introduce you to an old acquaintance. After 7 years apart, Clara Lynn had grown even more stunningly beautiful. Rumor had it that in recent years, the elders of the Lynn and Xia families had doted on her excessively. Clara no longer carried the wretchedness and timidity of her past, carrying herself like a true, born daughter of an elite family. At first glance, she didn't recognize me. Instead, she sneered at Stella. You won't last much longer either. Once I'm married, Sean will take over everything. Zoe? Sean, who had been standing nearby, suddenly called out my name. Visible panic flashed across Clara's face as she followed Sean's gaze. and her eyes landed on me. Her voice turned shrill. Zoe Xia, how dare you return without my permission? The others picked up on her words and began whispering among themselves, piecing together my identity. So this is the disgraced daughter of the Xia family? Someone murmured. I heard she was sent abroad for mental health treatment after losing her mind. Stella Lynn has gone mad. Why would she bring a lunatic at such a critical moment? During my absence, Clara Lynn had been spreading rumors that I was violated. As a result, prominent families avoided marriage alliances with me. Gradually, I lost my value to the Xia family and was forgotten by my parents. That's why she was certain I'd never leave the mental institution. I smiled and asked Clara Lynn, do I need your permission to be discharged? Clara, recovering from her panic, clung to Sean Xia's arm and taunted, husband, Zoe's illness isn't cured yet. Send her back. Okay, Miss Lynn, you needn't concern yourself with my mental state. I flung the appointment letter into Clara's arms, staggering her back several steps. Read it clearly. Now, reconsider your wording and tone, and think about how you should address your superior. Dead silence fell over the scene. Clara Lynn held the black and white appointment letter stamped in red, her lips suddenly trembling. Impossible, Sean Xia frowned, scrutinizing the contents on the paper. Stella Lynn is just a mental patient. Do you think the project would still be necessary after this news is announced? It has to be said, when it comes to business, Sean is utterly useless. I found a soft, comfortable chair and sat down, smiling as I observed the man and woman before me. The AI product recently launched by the Xia and Lin families had already been widely applied across various industries. Are you going to announce to the world that the AI technology used in your current products originated from the delusions of a mental patient? Stella Lynn said expressionlessly. Road safety, medical health, agricultural irrigation. President Xia, you should know that once we issue such a statement, both our families will be doomed. Sean Xia's face darkened ominously. Clara Lynn grew even paler, tightly clutching Sean's hand. Over the years, Clara Lynn's life had only gotten better, especially after the Lynn family rose to prominence. She and Sean indulged in extravagance day after day. They became the golden couple envied by everyone in their circle. But Clara Lynn didn't know that this was a mirage, a fleeting dream Stella Lynn and I had woven for her. All her glamour and brilliance were built up by my own hands, just waiting for the day to pull the rug out from under them. Clara Lynn and Sean Xia would come crashing down from the clouds, shattered to pieces. This was only the beginning. I stood up. All right, since neither of you wish to continue spreading rumors, gather in the conference room in 10 minutes for a meeting. By the end of the meeting, Stella's face was practically splitting with laughter. After lying low for years, Stella finally succeeded in convening the shareholders' meeting today, kicking her father out of that position. That night, I drove to the Xia residence. Father, mother, Sean, and Clara were all sitting neatly in the dining room, the atmosphere somewhat awkward. Mother grabbed father's hand, her smile stiff. Hey, Zong, why are you back? I smiled as I carried the gifts inside, of course because I missed you all. Then, amidst the dead silence, she asked as if nothing had happened. May I ask, where will I be staying tonight? Clara Lynn looked at Sean Xia with a pleading gaze, shaking her head in fear. Sean Xia frowned. You returned without any notice, and still expect us to have kept a room for you? Then I'll squeeze into a room with sister-in-law. My father stood up abruptly. Zoe Xia, come with me to the study. The study was quiet. After entering, my father fell silent, as if waiting for me to speak first. I calmly asked, Dad, did you need something? Father sighed and spoke earnestly. Our family has indeed failed you over these years. When you return, your mother and I will still treat you like our own daughter. Don't hold a grudge over your brother and Clara Lynn's matter. Hearing this, I didn't feel sad at all. To be precise, over the past 7 years, during countless nights when I curled up crying under the covers, I had already grown accustomed to not feeling sorrow. I placed the gift in front of him and said, Dad, I think there are some things you need to understand. A prophecy is called a prophecy precisely because it cannot be changed. You can only choose one, the Xia family or Shan Xia. His face rapidly turned deathly pale. I stood up. No rush. Think it through carefully, and let me know whenever you're ready. I began living the most comfortable days of my life. I methodically coordinated with the technical department and regularly emailed Steven about the project's progress. Even Stella Lynn's parents didn't dare utter a single word of complaint. Under these circumstances, Clara Lynn was the first to break down. During a morning meeting, Clara Lynn publicly lost her mind. Zoe Xia, can't you stop targeting me? She flung the project proposal everywhere, crying and shouting at me, "This is workplace bullying." I dodged the flying folder and calmly waited for her tantrum to subside. Then I called security. "Go cool off outside. Come back and discuss your proposal with me when you can distinguish between targeting and normal work requirements." The others in the conference room stared at Clara Lynn with strange expressions. Clara Lynn tried to rally their sympathy. "If she treats me like this, sooner or later, she'll do the same to all of you." No one present was willing to speak up for her. She failed to understand that this was no longer the era when she played the rebellious girl. Adults wouldn't let gossip override their workplace survival instincts. Whoever signed their paychecks was the boss. The new project between Steven and Lynn Group was progressing steadily. One evening as I left the office building, I spotted a familiar face. Evan Shun. According to Stella Lynn, ever since learning about Clara Lynn's marriage to Shan Xia, Evan had been drowning himself in alcohol daily. His family fortune was nearly depleted. No need for us to lift a finger against him. But today, he stands before me with dignity, having shed his former dejected demeanor, as gentle as he once was. "Azong, you're back. I've missed you so much." Truth be told, for someone like Clara Lynn, he perfectly fit the role of the devoted second male lead. Handsome, loyal, gentle, willing to abandon everything for the one he loved, including forcing himself to marry me for Clara Lynn's sake, sacrificing his own lifelong happiness. I scoffed lightly. Has Mr. Shin kicked his drinking habit yet? Evan Shun's expression froze. "Azong, I've waited for you all these years." He had dressed up specially today, carrying the fresh scent of soapberries, because I once said I loved how he smelled. I tossed my bag to him with a laugh. "Evan Shun, I feel like having French cuisine tonight." "Okay." When entering, I deliberately mentioned to the waiter that Evan Shun and I were engaged. The restaurant thoughtfully prepared some romantic arrangements for us. All evening, I propped my chin, enjoying the piano and violin duet. I cleaned every morsel of meat from my plate and ordered an extra bowl of cream of mushroom soup. Evan Shun seemed distracted throughout, as if enduring torment with every passing second. I pretended not to notice until the moment I reached for his hand. Only when he jerked away, as if shocked, disgust flashing in his eyes, did I laugh delightedly. Dropping my fork, I rested my chin with renewed interest. "Mr. Shin," dropping the act now, Evan Shin avoided my gaze. "Azong, do you still like me?" I smiled brightly. "Of course. When shall we get married?" Evan's lips pressed tightly together. "If you want, any time is fine." His expression of humiliation was utterly fascinating. For several days in a row, Evan Shun came whenever I called. He granted my every request, until one day, when I gave Clara Lynn a hard time at the company again. Evan pulled me aside during my lunch break. "Azong, stop targeting Clara Lynn. Our childhood conflicts were trivial. There's no need for this." I gazed at him darkly, pulling up my sleeve to reveal densely clustered scars. "If these scars were on Clara Lynn, would you still call it trivial?" Seeing Evan fall silent, I picked up my bag to leave. "Let's end here for today. I'm going home." Evan grabbed my arm, his voice low and reproachful. "Azong, can you stop losing your temper?" I paused. "Sorry, are you scolding me?" I pushed his hand away, watching him with delight. "You seem to have forgotten your place." Was I the one begging for this relationship? Evan Shun's expression stiffened. "What do you mean?" Watching Clara Lynn's dog come running to wag its tail and beg for mercy was actually quite amusing. I pinched his cheek. "For the sake of your pretty face, I'll grace you with my company for a few days. You didn't actually think I wanted to marry you, did you? Evan's pupils contracted. You've been playing me? A brainless lapdog still expects others to treat you like a human? I opened the car door and waved at Evan. Thank you. I've enjoyed this time, but it ends here. When Stella Lynn heard this part, she laughed until tears streamed down her face, eating soft rice with attitude. Evan really has some nerve. I'd have to kneel and beg you myself. As soon as the words fell, a suggestive noise suddenly came from the computer. Stella made a shushing gesture at me. Huh? Isn't that my study? What are Clara Lynn and Evan doing there? We saw Clara Lynn being lifted onto the desk by Evan. What they were doing needed no explanation. Evan, help me one more time, okay? Just like 7 years ago. Destroy her. Evan's voice was hoarse, but those people were arranged by Sean. You can't bear to let him do it, right? Clara Lynn's voice suddenly rose, tinged with pleading. Evan, even after marriage, I can still. Fine, I'll help you. Stella Lynn closed the video with a disgusted expression. She laughed coldly. Tell me, what can Evan, who has nothing left, use to destroy you? Of course, he'll trade his worthless life for mine. Stella Lynn opened her mouth. That idiot. He's making me laugh. Time quickly arrived at Sean's wedding day. Quite a few guests had gathered at the venue. When I arrived, Stella was already waiting for me in a corner. Just as I was about to sit down, Clara Lynn appeared from nowhere and grabbed my hand. Hey, Zong, I need to talk to you. Can you come with me? Meeting her sincere gaze, I curved my lips. Sure. Clara Lynn led me through the crowd of guests to the back door. Sunlight spilled freely across the asphalt road. The surroundings were so quiet that only the rustling of leaves could be heard. A Maserati was parked by the roadside. I stood by the road and said, Speak. What is it? Clara Lynn's face suddenly twisted with rage. Zoe Xia, go to hell. After saying this, she pushed me hard. The next second, the smile on Clara Lynn's face froze. It turned out I had tightly grabbed hold of her belt. I dragged her along with me as we tumbled into the middle of the road. The roar of an engine approached from a distance. I saw the car speeding toward us, and Evan Shun sitting inside. Clara Lynn struggled and screamed, You're insane. The car was now right in front of us. The earthy, pungent scent stirred a wild frenzy within me. I flipped over and pinned Clara Lynn to the ground, smiling as I said, So eager for me to die? How about dying together? In truth, the plan Stella Lynn and I had agreed upon wasn't like this, but years of pent-up grievances had ignited a vicious rage deep inside me. For a moment, I genuinely wished for Clara Lynn to die. Clara Lynn's pupils dilated with terror. No, Zoe, please, spare me. It hurts so much. Dying truly hurt too much. The screech of brakes pierced the air, startling a flock of birds from the roadside. The front bumper pressed against Claire's arm, her skirt damp. She had wet herself without realizing. She remained dazed and unresponsive, even when Evan Shen rushed out of the car and lifted her from the ground. Zoe, you're truly insane. Evan's voice dripped with undisguised disgust. I stood by the roadside, pulling out a wet wipe to slowly clean my hands, then played the recording of their conspiracy. Clara, here's your choice. Either go to prison with Evan or pin all the blame on him. Evan's face flushed with anger. Enough. Zoe, if you have a problem, come at me. Don't torment her. Suddenly, Clara shoved him away, scrambling toward the approaching police. It was Evan who tried to kill us. Help me. Help. Evan's words froze in his throat, as if he couldn't believe what he had just heard. I clapped my hands with a smile. Evan Shun, it seems she doesn't care about you at all. Evan's face rapidly turned ashen as he was flanked by police officers on both sides. Mr. Shin, you're under arrest for attempted murder. Evan's dazed eyes suddenly cleared. This was just a traffic accident. How can it be attempted murder? Where's the evidence? Would we arrest you without evidence? At the officer's retort, Evan shuddered and sharply turned his gaze toward me. You. By then, I had already retreated under the large tree and opened a parasol. I forgot to mention, the recording was submitted to the police long ago. And the video of your affair with Clara Lynn is probably playing on loop on the big screen right now. Clara was utterly terrified, sitting filthily on the ground and muttering, "Zoe Xia, you went back on your word." She scrambled up and rushed toward the auditorium. She collided head-on with Stella Lynn, who had just opened the door. Stella raised her hand and slapped her across the face. In front of all the guests, she said coldly, "You've completely disgraced our Lynn family." Clara Lynn spotted Sean Xia standing in the distance, and behind Sean, a video playing publicly made her scream before she fainted. The afternoon office was quiet and warm. Stella Lynn pushed the door open and entered. She plopped into the executive chair in front of me, looking refreshed and energized. "Lately, I've gained a crazy younger sister. She locks herself in her bedroom every day, muttering mysteriously. Now, with Clara Lynn, that toxic presence gone, Stella has become the true power holder of the Lynn family." She tossed the stock transfer agreement to me. "Time to fulfill your promise. When do I make a move on your brother?" "Anytime." Having disrupted the alliance between the Lynn and Xia families, destroying the Xias would be as easy as turning over a hand. Plus, with Evan Shun imprisoned, jealous that Sean won Clara's love, he'd stop at nothing to expose Sean's vulnerabilities. A week later, the Lynn Group abruptly announced the termination of its partnership with the Xia family and poached the core team handling the project. While working as a technical consultant during my liaison with the Xia Corporation team, I unexpectedly encountered an enraged Sean Xia. He broke free from the police restraint, charged over, and violently grabbed me by the throat. "Qingyu was right all along. You really are a jinx." As suffocation set in, I gazed at Sean with a smile. No brother in the world would hire someone to violate his own younger sister. "You're the one who deserves to die." 7 years later, recalling that fragile, helpless version of myself, like a stray dog with nowhere to go, I couldn't hold back the tears welling in my eyes. If Sean hadn't been involved in the scheme, our parents wouldn't have stepped in to cover up the incident. Sean's gaze turned dark and menacing. "So what if I did it? You're just an adopted daughter." I dug my nails fiercely into the back of his hand. "Guess who our parents will save when the empire crumbles? A useful adopted daughter or a worthless biological son?" 7 years have passed. I've grown my wings. I now hold the core technology of the Xia Corporation. I'm no longer that weak girl from back then. Sean's hand trembled, and he released me, clutching my bruised neck. I watched as the police arrived and took away the panicked Sean Xia, laughing until tears streamed down my face. Only then did he realize that these officers had been called by his own parents. They had personally delivered their son to prison. As Sean was led away, they cautiously asked me, "Zong, you promised to protect the Xia Corporation. You won't go back on your word, will you?" Stella Lynn pushed through the crowd and helped me up. She pressed a cool pain relief patch against my neck. "It's all bruised. Come on, let's go to the hospital." Stella pulled me along as we left the company. It was midsummer, and the thick canopy of trees rustled in the wind. We sat side by side on the edge of a roadside flower bed, each nibbling on an ice pop, neither of us speaking. Stella licked her ice pop and said, "In a few days, I'll release the planned expose about how Clara Lynn bullied you and hired people to humiliate you years ago. Zong, the power of the internet 7 years from now is far greater than either of us imagines. They'll never recover from this." But correspondingly, Stella Lynn looked at me with concern. "I'm afraid the gossip might hurt you." I smiled. "What gossip? That I'm tainted and will never marry? Or that I'm cowardly, unlikable, and must have something wrong with me?" Stella choked on her words, then suddenly beamed. "As if these things don't affect you at all." I picked up a small branch and drew a circle on the ground. "I hope all who have experienced bullying dare to step out, to reach heights where they cannot be easily defined, to look down upon the gossip from above. Stella, this is my purpose for going public." Stella pondered thoughtfully, then after a while smiled brightly at me. "Let's hold a press conference then." 3 days later, a press conference was grandly held at Lynn Corporation. Stella and I sat side by side on the stage. What happened back then was revealed truthfully and in detail. It exploded across the entire internet. Damn, I remember Zoe Xia, the girl whose bullying case had a twist back then. Turns out it wasn't false accusations, but her brother colluded with her fiancé to hide the evidence. How despicable. Also, his brother hired people to assault his sister, even if she's an adopted daughter. Isn't that going too far? Was she actually violated? Whether she was violated or not doesn't matter. What we can do is make sure the perpetrators pay with their lives. 7 years later, the power of the internet is immense. The press conference was packed with people. Reporters aimed their cameras at me. President Xia, how did you turn the tables against the injustices you faced in your youth? I smiled and glanced at Stella Lynn. Stella and I made a deal that bound us together. What kind of deal? No matter what dangers I faced in the Xia family, she would spare no effort to rescue me from peril and ensure I survived. In return, I would help her obtain everything she desired. This was the deal starving and desperate, struck with the frustrated Stella Lynn on that dreadful coming of age night. A reporter gasped. Did you ever consider that if anything went wrong? If anything went wrong, I replied, both she and I would lose everything. That's why we both had to fight with everything we had to win. I looked toward the corner and smiled faintly at Janie, who was now the executive president of the Xia Corporation. I really should have publicly thanked someone. After I left, Janie became Clara Lynn's bestie. Many pieces of evidence were gathered by her quietly investigating on my behalf. Even now, most people have little impression of Janie. I still couldn't bring myself to mention Janie's name. Unlike Stella Lynn, she lacks powerful backing, just as I once kept my distance to protect her. Years later, I still want to keep her safe. Midway through the press conference, a reporter finally circled back to the classic question, President Xia, have you considered marriage? Did those incidents affect your marital prospects? The room gradually fell silent. Many eyes turned to me, some scrutinizing, some mocking, some full of anticipation. Earlier, someone had even declared online, I admit Zoe Xia is exceptional, but no one would want to marry someone like her. True, she feels tainted. Smiling, I gripped the microphone, stood up, leaned toward the camera, and enunciated slowly, I will never be anyone's wife. I am the current chairman of Xia Corporation, the founder of the EKO AI series brand, a partner and senior technology consultant of Lin Group, and the developer behind the EKO, branded smartphones, cars, computers, smart home devices, autonomous driving systems, and more that you all use. Of course, I pointed at the reporter's camera. This very device you're using is also my creation. Are you sure you want to spend your valuable time probing into my personal life, rather than providing product feedback and suggestions? As I finished speaking, thunderous applause erupted across the venue. The reporter's face flushed crimson, casting an apologetic look my way. I smiled. I am Zoe Xia, and I thank you all for your support. Time swept us into the blazing heat of July once again. Zoe Xia and Stella Lynn's names were splashed across major financial newspapers and news reports. Interviews came one after another. On the eve of my departure for further studies in country, Stella Lynn held a farewell dinner in my honor. Wearing a loose tank top and baggy shorts, she sat with her legs spread wide, chugged half a bottle of beer, and said with gleeful schadenfreude, Sean Xia and Evan Shen got their sentences. I hired the best lawyers to keep them locked up until they turn into old men before releasing them. No place to work, no friends or family, not even able to use your AI. Just thinking about it feels so satisfying. It was Clara Lynn. Stella Lynn was a bit annoyed. As an instigator, Clara got a light sentence, and she acted all mystical, as if she had a mental illness. Mental illness? Yeah, she kept repeating one phrase. This isn't the last time. Remembering what Clara had said long ago about being reborn, I decided to visit her once. Through a pane of glass, I saw Clara Lynn. Her face was haggard, her eyes sunken, yet her gaze was dark and piercing, carrying a tinge of madness. She pressed against the window, staring at me with wide, unblinking eyes. Zoe Xia, you think you've won? No. Ha ha ha. I've memorized it all. Must not let you go abroad. Ha ha ha. I've written it down. I've written it all down. I gazed at her calmly. How many times have you been reborn? Clara Lynn smirked arrogantly. Guess. Zoe Xia. You'd be terrified to know. Every single time, I block your new paths until you have nowhere left to go. So you've already lost me many times. Clara's face stiffened, twisting into something vicious. You're lying. I never lost. The system told me I'm the female lead. It's just a game. Losing 8 or 10 times is normal. Now, I understand why Stella Lynn said she's mentally ill. She clawed at her own hair, glaring at me with venomous eyes like a madwoman. Zoe, originally, I planned to gather more intelligence for a few more years, but I can't wait any longer. Seeing your face makes me desperate to kill you right now. A prison guard approached and dragged Clara Lynn away, heading deeper inside. Clara screamed wildly, "Ha ha ha ha, Zoe Xia, sleep peacefully tonight. After this night, you'll return to 7 years ago again. This time, I won't let you escape." After saying this, she broke free from the guard's grip and slammed her head against the wall. In an instant, blood gushed forth, splattering against the glass. Clara Lynn's corpse, eyes wide open, slumped limply in the corner. She was dead. Before dying, her eyes glared at me with fierce hatred. Suddenly, an incomprehensible language echoed in my mind. Ancient and mysterious. I guessed it might be what Clara called her system. Watching them carry away Clara's body, I turned and walked out. The scorching sunlight bathed my skin, yet I felt no warmth at all. Stella Lynn approached. "What's wrong? You look a bit pale." I took a deep breath. "It's nothing. I just don't like restarting games, especially when memories are lost." "Huh?" I patted Stella's head. "Never mind. I hope I'm lucky enough to meet you again next time." I tried to utter that ancient phrase, recorded it, and asked Stella to find an expert to decipher it. Then, I boarded the flight bound for M country. As we crossed the Terminator line, I calmly closed my eyes, quietly awaiting the fate that belonged to me. As darkness descended, I fell into a deep slumber as if it had been prearranged. After what felt like an entire century, someone shook me awake. "Miss Xia, hello." Amid the bustling noise around me, I slowly opened my eyes to see an endless expanse of wide runway through the window. I silently looked at the flight attendant, who gave me a sweet smile and said, "It's time for you to disembark." My phone chimed once. I had received a message from Stella Lynn. It was the translation of that ancient phrase. Suicide is considered voluntary withdrawal from the game. Host elimination successful. Mission terminated. I stood up and walked out, where a winding glass pathway unfolded beneath my feet. In the distance, the blue sky was clear as if freshly washed. The scorching afternoon sunlight refracted through the transparent glass into a thin layer of light and shadow. In an instant, warmth flooded through every limb and vein. I curled the corners of my lips, bathed in the sunlight, and strode toward the distant horizon, like a resilient blade of grass, growing ever toward the sun.